Hello, welcome back to my channel. And if you're new, welcome to my channel. This week I've decided to do a true crime because last time I promised you to do a true crime and I can't go back on my word. So here we are, I'm going to do a true crime for you this week. I hope you enjoy it. Let's just get on with the video and see you on the other side. H.H. Holmes. Holmes was born as Herman Webster Mudgett on May 16, 1861 in Gilmanton, New Hampshire. The third child of Levi Horton Mudgett and Theodore Page Price, both of whom were descended from the first English settlers in the area. As an adolescent, Holmes attended Phillips Exeter Academy before graduating high school with honours from the Gilmanton Academy when he was just 16. Holmes's parents were both devout Methodists and his father was from a farming family, and at times he worked as a farmer, trader and house painter. He was also reportedly a heavy drinker who cruelly mistreated his family. Holmes also faced bullying by classmates due to his outstanding academic capabilities. In one incident, he was forced to stand in front of a human skeleton and put the skeleton's hands on his face in an effort to frighten him. Initially terrified, Holmes later discovered the experience to be intriguing and claimed that it helped him overcome his worries. Holmes subsequently developed an obsession with death as a result of the encounter and began dissecting animals. In 1879, Holmes enrolled in the University of Vermont for 1 year. In 1882, he transferred to the University of Michigan's Department of Medicine and Surgery. Despite his mediocre academic performance, Holmes successfully graduated in June 1884. While enrolled, he worked in the anatomy lab under Professor William James Herdman, then the chief anatomy instructor, and the two were said to have been engaged in facilitating grave robbing to supply medical cadavers. Holmes had apprenticed in New Hampshire under Nahum Wright, a noted advocate of human dissection. Years later, when Holmes was suspected of murder and claimed to be nothing but an insurance fraudster, he admitted to using cadavers to defraud life insurance companies several times in college. Holmes moved to Chicago in 1886. This is when he began using his name H.H. Holmes. Soon after his arrival, he came across a drugstore at the northwest corner of South Wallace Avenue in West 63rd Street in Inglewood section of Chicago. The drugstore's owner, Elizabeth Holton, gave Holmes the job. He proved to be a hard-working employee, eventually buying the store. Contrary to several accounts, Holmes did not kill Dr. E.S. Holton. Holmes purchased an empty lot across the street where construction began in 1887 for a two-storey mixed-use building, with apartments on the second floor and retail spaces, including a new drugstore on the first. When Holmes declined to pay the architects or the steel company, they took him to court in 1888. In 1892, he added a third floor, telling investors and suppliers he intended to use it as a hotel during the upcoming World's Columbian Exposition. Contemporary accounts report that Holmes built the hotel to lure tourists visiting the exposition in order to kill them and sell their skeletons to nearby medical schools. Although he did have a history of selling stolen cadavers to medical schools, Holmes had acquired these wares through grave robbing rather than murder. Likewise, there's no evidence that Holmes even murdered the expedition goers on the premises. The yellow press labelled the building as Holmes's murder castle, claiming that the structure contained secret torture chambers, trapdoors, gas chambers, and a basement crematorium. None of these sensationalised claims were true. Other accounts stated that the hotel was made up of over 100 rooms and laid out like a maze, with doors opening into brick walls, windowless rooms, dead-end staircases. In reality, the third-floor hotel was moderately sized, largely unremarkable and uncompleted due to Holmes' disputes with builders. It did contain some hidden rooms, but they were used for hiding furniture Holmes bought on credit and did not intend to pay for. Holmes did not kill an alleged castle victim, Miss Kate Durkee, who turned out to be very much alive. In his confession, Holmes stated that his usual method of killing was to suffocate his victims using various means, including an overdose of chloroform, overexposure to lighting gas fumes, and trapping them in an airless vault. Holmes also claimed to have used starvation and have burnt victims alive in his castle. Holmes's hotel was gutted by fire started by an unknown arsonist shortly after his arrest, but it was largely rebuilt and used as a post office until 1938. Besides his infamous murder castle, Holmes also owned a one-storey factory which he claimed was used to be for glass bending. It is unclear if the factory furnace was ever used for this purpose. It's speculated to have been used to destroy incriminating evidence of Holmes's crimes. Presumed murders. In 1880, before arriving in Chicago, while still using his real name, Herman Webster Mudditt, his first presumed murders were around the Chattanooga area in Hickston, Tennessee. Holmes allegedly murdered a train conductor by the name of William C. Berman. Berman was a 56-year-old train conductor in the area. Holmes reportedly stole Berman's identity while running from a series of murders that took place in the North Georgia area near Dalton. Holmes's mistress, 31-year-old Julia Smythe, was the wife of Dr. Lawrence Isilius, Ned Connor, who had moved into Holmes' building and began working at his pharmacy's jewellery counter. After Connor found out about Smythe's affair with Holmes, he quit his job and moved away, leaving Smythe and their 5-year-old daughter Pearl behind. Smythe gained custody of Pearl and remained at the hotel, continuing her relationship with Holmes. Julia and Pearl both disappeared on Christmas Eve of 1891. Holmes initially claimed to acquaintances that Julia had left unexpectedly to visit her dying sister, but then changed his story and said that she had fled her former husband. Ultimately, Holmes later claimed that Julia actually had died during an abortion. Despite his medical background, Holmes was unlikely to be experienced in carrying out abortions, and mortally from such procedure was really high at that time. Holmes then claimed to have poisoned Pearl, likely to hide the circumstances of her mother's death. A partial skeleton, possibly of a child around Pearl's age, was found when excavating Holmes' cellar. Pearl's father was a key witness at Holmes' trial in Chicago. 23-year-old Emmeline Sigrand began working in Holmes' building in May 1892 and worked for him for 6 months. Holmes reportedly hired her as a secretary due to her having connection to a doctor who peddled a vaccine that allegedly cured alcoholism. Those who saw Sigrand in her weeks before her disappearance noted that she appeared to have lost interest in Holmes and their relationship. She was last seen in 1892 in December. Her parents were informed that she had left to marry a man named Robert Phelps. Authorities hypothesised that she had got pregnant by Holmes, possibly being a victim of another failed abortion that Holmes had tried to cover up. Her empty luggage trunk was sent back to her mother in Anderson, Indiana. Her skeleton was found by police in the home of the Chicago physician with the help of M.G. Chappell, who admitted having articulated 3 skeletons for H.H. Holmes. In early 1893, 24-year-old one-time actress named Wilhelmina Minnie Williams moved to Chicago. Holmes claimed to have met her in an employment office, though it is believed that he had actually met her in Boston several years earlier while he was going then by the alias of Harry Gordon. Holmes offered her a job at the hotel as his personal stenographer. and she accepted. Holmes persuaded Williams to transfer the deed to her property in Fort Worth, Texas, to a man named Alexander Bond, which was another alias of his. In April 1893, Williams transferred the deed, with Holmes serving as the notary. Williams later signed the deed over to Faisal, giving him the alias Benton T. Lyman. In the following month, Holmes and Williams, presenting themselves as husband and wife, rented an apartment in Chicago's Lincoln Park. Minnie's younger sister, 18-year-old Anna Nanny Williams, came to visit, and on 5th of July 1893, she wrote to her aunt that she planned to accompany Brother Harry to Europe. In it, she signed off with a message: "Brother Harry," who was Holmes, "says you need to never trouble any more about me, financially or otherwise. He and sister will see to me. I hope her hard days are over." Afterward, neither Minnie nor Nanny were ever seen alive. Holmes would subsequently use Minnie's name in future scams. Suspected murders. A 68-year-old creditor of Holmes named John D. Bruley died on April 17th in 1891 in the Castle drugstore. He collapsed and died shortly after Holmes poured a black liquid down his throat, according to a witness. Foul play was not suspected in 1895. It was determined that his life had been insured and that Holmes had profited from his death. In 1891, Emily Van Tassel disappeared after working at Holmes's drugstore. Holmes spoke of her in his confession. In 1897, Tassel's name was cited as in the list of suspected victims, and Tassel's mother believed she was a possible victim. Dr. Russler had an office in the castle and went missing in 1892. Holmes mentioned killing Russler in his confession. Kitty Kelly, a stenographer for Holmes, also went missing in 1892. John Davis of Greenville, Pennsylvania, went to visit the 1893 World Fair and vanished. In 1920, he was declared legally dead. Harry Walker of Greensburg, Indiana, went missing in November 1893. He was alleged to have his insurance insured his life to Holmes for $20,000 and wrote to friends that he was working for Holmes in Chicago. Holmes and Faisal took George Thomas out to Mississippi Swamp on the Tombigbee River in June 1894, killed him and disposed of his body. Holmes confessed to the murder to his second wife. Milford Cole of Baltimore, Maryland, disappeared after receiving a telegram from Holmes to come to Chicago in July 1894. An additional possible victim was Lucy Burbank. Her bank book was found with human hair in a chimney flue in the castle in 1895. Holmes is alleged to have claimed to have killed 2 persons in Lake County, Illinois in the 1890s. This was confirmed years later when the remains of an unknown man and an unknown woman were found on a farm in 1919, 23 years after his execution. While working in the chemical bank building on Dearborn Street, Holmes met and became close friends with 38-year-old Benjamin Relon Faisal, a carpenter with a criminal past who was exhibiting in the same building a coal bin he had invented. Holmes used Faisal as his right-hand man for several criminal activities. A district attorney later described Faisal as Holmes' tool, his creature. With insurance companies pressing to prosecute him for arson, Holmes left Chicago in July 1894. He reappeared in Fort Worth, where he had inherited property from the Williams sisters, and the intersection of modern-day Commerce Street and 2nd Street. Here, he once again attempted to build an incomplete structure without paying his suppliers and contractors. In July 1894, Holmes was arrested and briefly jailed for the first time, on the charge of selling mortgage goods in St. Louis, Missouri. He was promptly bailed out, but while he was in jail, he struck up a conversation with a convicted outlaw named Marion Hedgepeth, who was serving a 25-year sentence. Holmes had concocted a plan to swindle an insurance company out of $10,000 by taking out a policy on himself and faking his death. Holmes promised Hedgepeth a $500 commission in exchange for the name of the lawyer who could be trusted. Holmes was directed to a young St. Louis attorney named Jephthah Howe. Howe thought Holmes' scheme was brilliant and agreed to play a part. Nevertheless, Holmes' plan to fake his own death failed when the insurance company became suspicious and refused to pay. Holmes did not press the claim. Instead, he concocted a similar plan with Faisal. Faisal agreed to fake his own death so that his wife could collect a $10,000 life insurance policy, which he was to split with Holmes and Howe. The scheme was to take place in Philadelphia, called for Faisal to set himself up as an inventor under the name B.F. Perry, and then be killed and disfigured in a lab explosion. Holmes was to find an appropriate cadaver to play the role of Faisal. Instead, Holmes killed Faisal on September 4th, 1894, and by knocking him unconscious with chloroform and setting his body on fire with the use of benzene. In his confession, Holmes implied Faisal was still alive after he used chloroform on him, before he set him on fire. However, forensic evidence presented at Holmes' later trial showed that chloroform had been administered after Faisal's death. In fact, a fact of which the insurance company was unaware, presumably a stage of suicide to exonerate Holmes should he be charged with murder. Holmes collected the insurance payout on the basis of a genuine Faisal corpse. Holmes then went on to manipulate Faisal's unsuspected wife, Carrie Alice Canning, in allowing 3 of her 5 children to be placed into his custody. The 3 children who were placed under Holmes' care were 13-year-old Alice, 9-year-old Nellie, and 7-year-old Howard. Holmes and the 3 Faisal children travelled throughout the northeastern United States and into Canada. He simultaneously escorted Carrie along the parallel route, all while using various aliases and lying to Carrie concerning her husband's death by claiming Faisal was hiding in London, as well as lying to her about her true whereabouts of her 3 missing children. In Detroit, just before entering Canada, they were only separated by a few blocks. In an even more audacious move, Holmes was staying at another location with his wife, who was unaware of the whole affair. Holmes would later confess to murdering Alice and Nellie on October 25th, 1894, by forcing them into a large trunk and locking them inside. He drilled a hole in the lid of the trunk and put one end of a hose through the hole. He attached the other end to a gas line to asphyxiate the girls. Holmes buried their nude bodies in the cellar of his rental house at 16 St. Vincent Street in Toronto. Frank Geyer was a Philadelphia Police Department detective assigned to investigate Holmes and find the 3 missing children. He began in June 1894 to trace Holmes' steps and found the decomposed bodies of 2 Faisal girls in the cellar of the Toronto home. The detective wrote, "The deeper we dug, the more horrible the odour became, and then when we reached the depth of 3 feet, we discovered what appeared to be the bone of a forearm of a human being." In Toronto, Geyer discovered unsent letters by the Faisal children that Holmes had kept. This information led to further investigations of Holmes' Chicago property and ultimately led to Geyer to Indianapolis, where Holmes had rented a home in the Irvington neighbourhood. Holmes was reported to have visited a local pharmacy to purchase the drugs which he had used to kill Howard Faisal on October 10th, 1894, and a repair shop to sharpen the knives he used to chop up the body before he burnt it. The boy's teeth and bone were discovered in the home's chimney. Holmes's murder spree finally ended when he was arrested in Boston in November 17th, 1894, after being tracked there from Philadelphia by the private Pinkerton National Detective Agency. He was held on an outstanding warrant for horse theft in Texas because the authorities had become more suspicious at this point, and Holmes appeared poised to flee the country and in the company of his unsuspecting third wife. In July 1895, following the discovery of Alice and Nellie's bodies, Chicago police and reporters began investigating Holmes's building in Englewood, now locally referred to as the Castle. Though many of the sensationalist claims were made, no evidence was found which could have convicted Holmes in Chicago, as there was only very circumstantial evidence of the castle victims. A piece of human bone, possibly from Julia Connor, remains of a child, possibly Pearl Connor, and a burned gold watch chain and a burned dress buttons apparently belonging to Minnie Williams. A tuft of female hair found in the chimney flue. Thus, Holmes would be tried for the murder of Faisal in Philadelphia, which had the clearest case for murder. In October 1895, Holmes was put on trial for the murder of Benjamin Faisal and found guilty and sentenced to death. By then, it was evident that Holmes had also murdered the 3 missing Faisal children. Following his conviction, Holmes confessed to 27 murders in Chicago, Indianapolis and Toronto, and 6 attempted murders. Holmes was paid $7,500 by the Hearst newspapers in exchange for his confession. While writing his confession in prison, Holmes mentioned how drastically his facial appearance had changed since his imprisonment. On May 7, 1896, Holmes was hanged at Moyamensing Prison for the murder of Faisal. Until the moment of his death, Holmes remained calm and amiable. He was showing very few signs of fear, anxiety, or depression. Despite this, he asked for his coffin to be contained in concrete and buried 10 feet deep, because he was concerned that grave robbers would steal his body and use it for dissection. Holmes's neck did not break. He instead strangled to death slowly, twitching for over 15 minutes before being pronounced dead. Upon his execution, Holmes's body was interred by an unmarked grave at Holy Cross Cemetery, a Catholic cemetery in the Philadelphia western suburb of Yeadon, Pennsylvania. On New Year's Eve 1909, Hedgepeth, who had been pardoned for informing on Holmes, was shot and killed by police officer Edward Jabarek. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. During a hold-up at the Chicago bar. March 7th, 1914, the Chicago Tribune reported that with the death of Patrick Quinlan, the former caretaker of the castle, the mysterious Holmes Castle would remain unexplained. Quinlan had committed suicide by taking strychnine. I can't say that word either. His body was found in a bedroom with a note that read, "I couldn't sleep." Quinlan's surviving relatives claimed he had been haunted for several months and was suffering from hallucinations. The castle itself was damaged by fire in August 1895. 2 men were seen entering the back of the building at 9 p.m. About half an hour later, they were seen exiting the building, rapidly running away. Following several explosions, the castle went up in flames. Afterwards, investors found a half-empty gas can underneath the back of the steps of the building. The building survived the fire and remained in use until it was torn down in 1938. The site is currently occupied by the Englewood branch of United States Postal Service. In 2017, during allegations Holmes had escaped execution, Holmes's body was exhumed for testing by Janet Mong of the University of Pennsylvania Museum of Archaeology and Anthropology. Due to his coffin being contained in concrete, his body was found to have not decomposed properly. His clothes were almost perfectly preserved, and his moustache was found to be intact. The body was positively identified by his teeth as being that of Holmes. He was then reburied. So, all in all, he was a sick man. And I don't mean that in a way, oh yeah, he's a sick man, so it's an excuse, because that's no excuse. He was a sick man in the way that all murderers are sick people. They're sick in the head. You don't go around murdering people for nothing. But the way he's gone about murdering these poor people and taking them on as staff and then killing them and children and everything is just disgraceful, if you ask me. And I think hanging back in the 1800s, when there was hanging was a thing, was a really, really, really good way of disposing of these people, I suppose. And public hanging, executions like that I think they should bring them back, personally, because if they bring back hanging and public executions, I think there'll be a lot less crimes around, because people these days go to prison and it's pretty much home from home. They have PlayStations, they have TVs in their room, everything, those snooker tables and all of that stuff, it's home from home. So people these days, I don't think are as afraid of going to prison as they probably should be. So that's especially in the United Kingdom anyway, over here. Well, no, over in America, they still have lethal injections, I believe, and stuff like that, which is better, because obviously then people are just never going to come out of it alive. And why should they? It should be a life for a life, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, I shall get down off my high horse. I hope you enjoyed listening, and I'll catch you again on the next one. Take care. Well then, that was horrific, wasn't it? I think the one thing I find about true crime videos is the fact that they are real, true crime stories that have happened, and I find them a little bit weird to do research on them, because of the fact that some of the details are so gruesome. When I'm researching, it's like, it just puts me in a bit of a downer type mood when I'm doing the research, but only because some of the things that these people do are like, they're out there, and they so yeah, it's not normal behaviour for a normal person. And so, I mean, what can you do? Got to do this video, haven't I? I think though, in all honesty, I think though that the fact that I choose to do the true crime videos is purely based on the fact that I like, but I am interested in the true crimes and things that have really happened. I do hope that I get the details correct, and 9 times out of 10 I am pretty correct. I do my research, and I do look into it, quite thoroughly. So hopefully the things that I research about and things that I put out there are correct as the time of me recording the video, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. And it's really, really nice to be back at making videos and talking to you. it's nice to talk to you. So thank you for coming back. Thank you for sticking with me. And I know I've not been around for ages, but I'm back, baby. And I hope to just be back for good now. I am going away. I'm going on holiday next month, so I will be away for a week, but I'm not sure when my next video, what the date will be. My next video will be next week. I'll still be here. I'll be around. But anyway, even still, it's Halloween coming up, and let me know in the comments if you're doing anything for Halloween. I love Halloween. I love it. I prefer Halloween over Christmas any day of the week, but in this country especially, we don't really particularly celebrate Halloween as a massive holiday. But for me, I'm going to get my Halloween decorations out the 1st of October, and I'm going to do my decorations for the whole of the month, because that's just the time of the year that I love. Personally, I'm not a Christmas person at all. I'll wait for a few days before Christmas before putting the tree up, and then it comes down a couple of days after Christmas. So it's not for me. Halloween though, definitely. Spooky time of the year, spooky season, love it. So yeah, one day I will get to America for Halloween, and I will spend the whole of Halloween doing something spectacular, because in America they do it properly. So anyway, so there, I'm Halloween. I'm going to try and do something a bit spooky, a bit, I don't know what yet, but watch the space. But I'll see you again before that, and have yourself a lovely weekend, and thank you for joining me, and come back again soon, won't you? See you soon. Take care. Keep smiling. Bye bye.